Michael Lee, the Vertical, Yahoo Sports. He writes about Embiid, but also the crusade that Embiid is kind of on, along with some of his fellow contemporaries, redefining the position of center, Michael. But it seems that Embiid is kind of the head of that class. Is he the guy that is getting the most notice around the league for the way that position is changing?
No, there's so many. I mean, he's just the newest one. But if you look at Karl Anthony Towns, you look at Kristaps Porzingis, you look at Anthony Davis, you look at Miles Turner, you go down the list. There's about 6, 7, 8 young guys that aren't just your typical back-to-the-basket centers, but can stretch out, shoot threes, put the ball on the floor, can handle, can do so many things. And for a while we were ready to bury the center position and say that we need to eliminate from the All-Star ballot, and the game has progressed to small ball. But there's some big guys out there that are really making heads turn right now, and he's one of them. And I think the fact that he's a rookie doesn't put him at the head, but it means that he'll be there soon enough.
How, when you watch his game and see his numbers with the minute restriction he's on, and then factor in that he didn't have a lot of experience to begin with, and he's missed 2 consecutive seasons, how interesting is to see what he's doing with so little experience?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing he mentioned to me about why he feels he's going to be the best center before it's all said and done is that he's missed 2.5 years, and he didn't start playing until 6 years ago. So you put that together, he's shown tremendous upside. And I think he also showed a lot of character in the fact that he missed that time and didn't sulk and didn't sit around and try to, take a really woe with me attitude. He came in, worked hard, and just worked on the areas of his game that he didn't already have sold up. And you look at the number he's putting up in just minimum minutes. It's really amazing.
Yeah, when you got a chance to talk to him, we see him here as this guy on social media. He seems like he's very colorful. What did you learn about him in sitting down with him?
I mean, he's just a guy that gets it, and he's enjoying, his life. He's enjoying the fact that he has the opportunity to play basketball. He's enjoying the chance that he can get better. He's a real fierce competitor. I think the one thing that people may they look at him and see him on Twitter, see him on Instagram and cracking jokes and putting out really witty comments, but he's highly competitive. I think the thing that stood out to me was he got his butt kicked by Karl Anthony Towns when they met in November, and he immediately put it on his calendar, for the rematch, like he wanted to get him back, and that's what drove him in that game. And you can just see that this is a guy that, he wants to take his lumps, but he also wants to come out ahead in the end. So as great a personality as he shows, as funny as he is, I wouldn't want people to confuse that for not being serious, because he's extremely serious about being great, and he wants to dominate. And I think from what we've seen of him in the first couple of months of the season, he truly is worth the wait if you were a Sixers fan.
Yeah, and I think some of the interesting things, we're talking with Michael Lee, the Yahoo Sports, the Vertical has a great piece on kind of Embiid, but features a lot of the evolution of the center position is, at the time of this, he's shooting threes. He was, he was leading the league, I think, at three-pointer. He had more three-pointers made than Curry. He also told you that he yearned to be the Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, he wants multiple Defensive Players of the Year awards. Like he wants to dominate, and that's fun. It's great to hear from a young guy to come in with goals and to not. I mean, you think about it. He had 2 years of his career taken away. Who knows what the future holds? But he doesn't want to waste any time in getting there. And I think that in a lot of ways, if he was able to start on time, who knows where he'd be in his 3rd year by now? Who knows what we'll be saying about him? But he's pretty special so far. But he wants to dominate defensively. He wants to dominate, be a great low post player. I mean, he's a guy who studied Hakeem Olajuwon and practiced his moves and try to get those down. But in the 2 years that he was injured and hurt, he worked on his three-point shot. He worked on a mid-range jump shot. He worked on all the things that he wasn't necessarily possessing when he first was drafted out of Kansas. So he's putting in the work, and I don't think I don't think he wants to just settle. I think the fact that the team really struggled, the last couple of years, he's not really thinking about that. He wasn't tainted by the loss, the losing, and the failure. He didn't have his head beat in the last couple of years. he was able to watch and observe and figure out what he was going to become. And now that he's here, he's changing the attitude. He's making the team interesting, because even if the Sixers are bad, I kind of want to watch the Sixers play now just to see what he's going to do.
Michael, the game's changed a lot with a lot of three-point shooting. It certainly evolved in that direction, but do you see the game changing and evolving even more with some of these big guys' abilities?
Yeah, I mean, a guy I didn't mention in the story because he doesn't play center, but you look at a Giannis Antetokounmpo who's 6'11" and is playing point guard for the Milwaukee Bucks. You can just kind of go across the board. I mean, this has sort of been a point guard, era, where you guys got guys like Westbrook and Chris Paul and Steph Curry, really kind of dominating the league. But bigger guys are now realizing, that they can do the same thing. If they can step out, they can shoot threes. That used to be frowned upon because if you're big, I remember my coaches always saying, if you're big, you're wasting your height outside. Go inside, because you're close to the rim anyway. But you have to do more because that's just the way the game is. You want to be a more efficient player. You want to follow analytics. You want to support that movement. And you're a big guy. You have to evolve with the game, and that's really what's happening. In the center position as well, because like I said, we were ready to bury it for so long, but now it's a requirement to have skill to be on the basketball court, no matter how tall you are. So big guys have to do it all now.
Greek Freak with a game winner last week in New York at Madison Square Garden. Then he runs out and signs autographs for all the Greek fans that were in attendance afterwards. We liked that as well.
I didn't play the next Saturday or something, and I had him in my DraftKings and kind of screwed me.
Yeah, oops. Hey, Michael, Mike Gill has said that Embiid's one of the top 5 players that he would pay to see in the NBA. Is that a fair statement? Is he the kind of guy that you'd pay to see, Joel Embiid?
Yeah, he is. Like I said, because it's not just, the fact that, he's young, he's exciting, but he also is the goods. I mean, you could just see, like I said, he has at least one highlight a game that makes you go, wow, I can't believe he did that. Either, not just from scoring. I mean, he had that chase down block on LeBron James in his first time against the Cavs. I mean, who does a chase down block on LeBron? I mean, this guy has.
I was at that game. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably a goal 10. I think he hit the backboard first, but just the fact that he was even able to track down LeBron, sprint down the floor, and come behind him and slap that shot. I mean, it just says a lot about his athleticism. So he's going to do something. There's a couple guys that are just going to make you say, oh, my gosh, I can't believe he did that. Steph Curry, LeBron, even the Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Harden. Those guys are going to do something. And I will put Embiid in that list because he's just really exciting to watch. And you just hope that eventually, Simmons gets healthy and he can play with them. And maybe they can move Okafor, Noel, and get another guard wing player to really help Philadelphia look like a serious team. But right now, just in the infancy of this movement, this Embiid movement, it's been pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I think in your story you referenced, DeMarcus Cousins said, man, I don't give a lot of praise, but that kid's going to be pretty good. He'll be the best once I'm gone. And then Embiid kind of fired back and said, no, I'm not going to have to wait for you. It seems that, you kind of said he's very competitive, but he has this confidence about him too. But you wonder if there's still some rust to kind of chip away at there.
Yeah, I mean, eventually teams are going to. I mean, no one knows what he is right now, so teams don't know how to prepare for him. But eventually he'll start getting double teams. Eventually teams will start forcing him to pass and do things that he hasn't shown that he can do just yet. But and that's part of the adjustment. That's part of your progression as an NBA player. But again, I think for somebody who missed 2 seasons and came out and played the way he has. It shows a lot. Like I said, it says a lot about his character because there aren't many guys that are going to come back and just be, in the league and just kind of take it by storm. I mean, this was a pretty weak 2016 draft class. I think that's what we've seen so far. And so I think it's really been good that we've had this new, this Embiid kind of to arrive because otherwise we'd be talking about how sorry this rookie class is. Instead, we're talking about how great it is that Embiid's here playing right now.
We're talking about Michael Lee from The Vertical. So is the center position back? Forget this front court stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, I think it is. I mean, you like I said, you mentioned DeMarcus Cousins, you have Andre Drummond, you have Rudy Gobert, you have Hassan Whiteside. You can go down the list around the leagues. There's a lot of really promising big men. There's a really good 23 and under group. There's also a good 26 and under group. There was a period, like I said, where the big man, the center was just there to just grab rebounds and get out of the way. But now guys are, have responsibility to do so much more on the floor. So I think it's back. I think it's time to recognize and acknowledge them, because I thought it was just silly last year. You had Kobe and LeBron jumping the opening tip of the All-Star game. I mean, I know it's an exhibition, but, let's at least try to acknowledge the way the game's always been played. We do have two centers jumping every game. We can actually honor that. We have the talent that can warrant, having two centers jumping, and even in an exhibition.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones, as you mentioned in Chronicle in the story. Check it out, yahoo.com, The Verticals. Michael Lee on the evolving game, Joel Embiid and the new wave of big men and how they're changing the NBA game. Michael, was a great piece. We enjoyed reading it. We appreciate your time, pal.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate you having me on.